I know you guys said you haven't seen Quiet on Set, but something that some past child actors said on the show is they wouldn't let their kids child act because of whatever, situation they had been in. I'm curious, what's your take on that?
If I were to have a kid, I would feel fine putting the kid into the industry if that's something they wanted to. I certainly wouldn't encourage it.
Yeah, I think
You gotta want to do it, I think, as a kid.
Yeah.
Like, unless you're a little baby for those cute commercials that you see with little babies, or print jobs or something like that.
Yeah,
Great,
I think
but
the reason I wouldn't encourage it wouldn't necessarily be because of any, I don't think that working as a kid caused any problems in my life. It would be more of I think as a whole, acting as a career is just a brutal job. And I think we've both seen very great highs and very awful lows of working in the industry of okay, maybe I'm just terrible at this. You get to that point where you're and maybe you're just not right for roles at the time.
Yeah.
There's so many specific time frames of your life where you're you're not in that high school range. You're not in the college range. You're not a parent yet. So then you're in this weird area, and then you're not old enough to be the adult figure. So it's it's all dependent on just scripts, and it's not about you, but it feels like it's about you, and you don't get to control any of it. And I feel for my kids,
you said it really well the other day too. You said in the grand scheme of a 70-year career, if you don't work for 5 years, 10 years, it's not that big a deal. We worked as a kid. We might work in 5 years for the next 10 years.
Yeah, and it's but in that time frame where you're not working, you just feel worthless. Because you're I can't do anything. I can't, I can't control. I can't be the hardest working person because I'm not getting the work.
What's that like being told no time and time again?
I'm so numb to it at this point, genuinely so numb to it that I feel for both of us too, you've been in
Laugh it off, I think.
Yeah, dude. But it also kind of makes you, in an unfortunate way, when you get penned for something and it's between you and another person and it's a big project and you don't get it, that happens enough times to where if you're just runner up again, you're I literally don't care. People are that's so exciting, you're penned for this, and you're no, it's not. It's not exciting until there's no second place. You can't. You don't get paid for being penned for something.
Yeah.
You didn't win, so there's nothing you can do. If you go to the Super Bowl 10 years in a row and you didn't win one of them, you still probably had an amazing career. But if you're second fiddle on something every single time you audition for it, it really doesn't matter.
It's tough to keep hope, and I think that's where if I'm going to have a kid get in the industry, that's where I would say if you have hope always and it's something that you want to do it.
Yeah, you got to be okay with the idea that it's going to be awful.
It has to be your dream. It has to be your life. You have to commit to it, because if you can't half-ass it.
Did you guys get more yeses as kids than you do now as adults?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I think when you're working too, people kind of blow smoke a little bit because they're just schmoozing. It's always oh my God, this is the best show we've done. You guys are gonna work for forever, and you're just kind of on set. You're
man.
I'm never
This
not
is
gonna
awesome.
work,
I'm
dude.
awesome.
And then you come out of it, and you're okay, where's that work? Everybody's talking about all this work.
Everyone's gonna be here on Monday, right? And you're no, we're done,
no,
man.
Dude, you suck. What are you talking about? Get off our set. And it's you just you go oh, okay, everybody was lying to me at a certain point, and then you just kind of back to the drawing board.
I mean, it's
no, they're just doing their job.
They're just doing their job. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a bizarre business. That's why I wouldn't want my kid to do it. But again, like he said, if the kid was it's the only thing I want to do, I'd be that's great. Do whatever you want, but it's gonna suck.
Yeah.
Is that
suck for a while?
So is that hard then, coming from this high of you're a kid, you're famous, you're making all this money, everybody wants to be you, and then time goes on, and maybe you're not booking as many roles as you were, the career isn't going as well as it once was. What does that do to your mental health?
No, we worked for 6 straight years. It felt like we were just going to keep working, and that momentum's going to keep going.
Yeah.
And so it started to get a little bit more stagnant for me, but I did a few movies and shows here and there. But yeah, since COVID, it's been a much more isolated industry. Everything's a little bit more remote, or entirely more remote. Now it's starting to go back in person a little bit, but it's definitely humbling. Genuinely, I felt once I got my first job, my second job, third job, and then we're on Disney, started to feel like things were getting handed to you because of the position you were in and that people trusted you. But once you remove yourself a little bit from that environment, and once a year has gone by, and then 2 years from like leading your own show or just doing small things, people need to rebuild that trust. A company, a casting director, a producer, a production company, they want to see what you've been doing and how you've been leading, and sometimes it's not just a tape or a performance, they want to see a bigger background. So it's definitely a lot harder work now.
I think for me, so I started working when I on Good Luck Charlie when I was 9. That show went until I was like 13, 14 years old. Then we started working together right away. And then we worked until I was 18. I didn't go to high school in person, so I just started dating a girl who was going into her freshman year of college, and she was going away to school. And I was like, wow, that sounds really cool. Like that seems like something I want to do. So I kind of made the choice to start doing, regular college, and I started a community college. I was on a TV show on ABC called Schooled, and then I had just done a film for Adam Sandler. And so
before COVID, you were working like
I was working a good amount, and then I kind of like went full time at USC and was living down there and just kind of like really committed to being a frat bro, and just like that's what I wanted to be, and like that was my new thing, and so I was auditioning less. I was honestly like turning down auditions, and I think my agents just kind of knew like, man, he's not even going to want to do it because I just wanted to go.